Good morning and welcome back to the NCCR Podcast. Joining me today is the lovely and talented
Steve Mattson.
I did my best to Vandis last week, so again, that's all you're going to get. Question.
Sweet D's going to be back next week.
Well, allegedly.
Yeah.
But we have a theory about that.
Ooh. Yeah.
Which is
for an LSU fan, had a rough weekend. So we hope that we just have to be gentle and kind to Sweet D.
Maybe he'll come back. Because one of the purple and gold teams won, but
yeah, they did.
Not that one.
Yeah, but LSU will be back. Don't worry, Devandis. They'll be back. Hang in there.
Allegedly. Okay, so Pastor Steve, finished up the sermon series on Acts that we've been walking through. So Acts chapter 12, 20 through the end of the chapter, and just another, a lot of information, a lot of the same things we've kind of been hearing through Acts. Mm-hmm. And the kind of the power struggle throughout Acts. I just made a few little yin and yang references, the balance in understanding what's happening and God's power versus perceived power that we think we have. And then, are you a taker or a giver? Are you powerful, powerless? Your head versus your heart? Just a lot of the back and forth nature of trying to walk with God and being in communion with Him. So,
yeah, I really think that the series that Pastor Steve put together on Acts was phenomenal. Mm-hmm. For me personally, I'll just say it's just been a time to dive deep into this and look at the history of the early church. Mm-hmm. And my encouragement to everyone really would be to take some time and revisit that, to go back and listen to some of the messages that are on the website, and to take some time and to get into the Word, because we're really, talk about the roadmap. That's the roadmap,
right, yeah.
And you look at the history that Luke captures here. When you look at the beginning and the beginning of the church and really the spreading of the church, and following up on the gospel that he wrote, and then to look at this as really the history and the spreading of the early church. And the other thing, there's a couple of points there that I think stood out to me, was really that there's a number of examples where you look at Christianity in its infancy, and the building the case in the times that Peter and James and John before the councils of Sanhedrin and making a case, and it's a great example for
mm-hmm.
us.
Yep.
And then the guides, the things that you just talk about, it really provides a guide. Some of the basic principles that were guiding principles, if you will, for the early church, and mm-hmm. they apply today. How many times in our life group have we said, "Wow, that's like today"? It's just like,
well, nothing changes, just time and place maybe, but the human nature stays pretty consistent through the millennia. And one of the things that Devandis and I had spoken about, 3-4 weeks, I don't know when it was, but because all of these Acts sermons and just the amount of information that's in there has been so good, and I really like Acts because it is just it's a little smack you upside your head in some ways, but the thing that strikes me, and I wanted to go back to it, was that when you're that feeling of powerlessness, and what do you do with that? And we're told to lean on God in those and in all things, but what people tend to do is gravitate towards something that will make their perspective, their truth, which we've spoken about mm-hmm. many times, make sense to them, because they can't make sense of what's actually happening and God's sovereign power over them, and they turn to politics, they turn to whatever feel-good thing they're doing, they turn to their tribe, the places where they'll go to get validated instead of turning their eyes to God, which that to me really stuck out in this whole Acts sermon series, is that people just don't get it. Even with miraculous things happening, there's still a tendency to try to do things on their own. And
well, we gravitate to that comfy zone, right?
Right. Yeah.
And you look at our communities that we're in, we gravitate to a comfy zone, the people we know, rather than the people we don't know. And I think that, the examples that Pastor Steve called out in recent weeks about that, where, even the leaders were, hanging together, which in some ways is good, but at the same time, the calling is to go and make disciples of all nations.
Right. Yeah, not cherry pick.
Yeah.
Which, again, it's the easy path. And we talked about that before a couple weeks back, was, it's the three stages of following God. It's easy, it's hard, and then it's like what the heck is happening here?
On your own.
On your own. Right. Right.
Yeah.
So Steve did start out, I'm going to go off topic here just a scooch, but he did start out with a statement, to live while you have life. And it struck me, how do you do that? What does that mean to people, to live while you have life? I mean, do you have any thoughts on that? I'm throwing you a curveball.
Yeah, no.
Since it's baseball season.
It's baseball season, and the Mariners are going to be in the playoffs, we hope, right? Yes. But yeah, I think it's the a bit of a curveball, but I look at that and say, live while you have life. I mean, to be in the moment and to not sit back and wait, to be engaged. And there's a lot of ways to do that. And it starts with, too, being in the Word, and then being engaged with fellow believers to encourage each other. I think of the Barnabas way, the son of encouragement. I think about the importance of that, whether it's a life group or whether it's just being with fellow believers, and to support, to pray together, to support each other, to encourage each other, but to not sit back, right? And that's really, I think, a takeaway from this early church experience, is to see, I'm sure there, when you think about all the persecution and the pain, the suffering, and all the things that went on, I mean, now, it's like we can't really relate to that, right? We talked about that.
I mean, not really. It's easy to be a spectator to things that are going on around you, and even more, again, nothing's different. It's just the mode of operation is different for us right now, but. Yeah. But the ease to just watch somebody else do the thing where you don't have to. Yeah.
And that would be my, again, a takeaway from this is to encourage people to really examine kind of where they're at, and to be willing to find ways to be connected, and to encourage everyone to take a step.
Right. Yeah. So, question, again, kind of getting back on the track we were on. Does doing things right make you righteous? Or does it cause you to take yourself a little too seriously? I mean, you don't have to answer that, but that's just food for thought for everybody. Because I think that feeling of being good, doing good, and being right, that's a sticky wicket for a few people. For sure. And I've been guilty of that myself in my life, obviously. But it's something to really think about when you're trying to put your words into action. What's compelling you to do that, and if it's not under the hand of God, with the doing good for the other person, then you're probably missing the beat there a little bit.
Yeah.
So, snacks today.
Yeah. I'm always good with the snacks.
It's a sleeve of crackers. It's just a small amount because sometimes you don't need a lot.
Okay. I like crackers though.
I'm a cracker fan myself. And then the treat, of course, to walk down the path with that one is M&M, which we thought would be really funny to bring today because M&M. Mattson and Mattson. Anyway, still looking for a sponsor. I'm not holding out any hope whatsoever, but I want to thank you for being my co-host.
Yes, Pleasure
again.
to be here. I'm sure that Devanis will be excited to get back, and
I'm sure he's
let's all
stoked.
encourage him. Go Tigers!
Hopefully he won't cry all the way home.
He'll be okay.
I guess he'll be fine. Poor
He will.
Stephanie.
Yeah.
Maybe they can watch a Hallmark movie together and feel better about how things have panned out.
Next week. There's always next week.
Next week. Thanks for joining us, and we
Yes.
will see you next week.